זמן. את הערב תוביל איתי מאיה נר, מאיה, איפה את?
היי.
אנחנו נתחיל לכולם, תגידי שלום, שהיא האוצרת הראשית של פרויקט בישראל, וכמה הודעות כלליות, אז אנחנו נשים את כולם על המיוט, מי שבמקרה יוצא, אנחנו ממש מבקשים להקפיד על מיוט, כדי לא להפריע לכולם. כמו שאמרתי, המפגש רובו יערך באנגלית, וחלק בעברית, ואם יש לו שאלות, אז גם בנושא התרגום שמוזמן לכתוב בצ'אט, ואנחנו קיבלנו מלא שאלות, אבל בכל זאת אם יש לאנשים שאלות או הערות, אז בצ'אט יכולים לכתוב באנגלית או בעברית, ואנחנו נעביר את זה לצלמים במהלך המפגש. רק משהו אחד, עוד משהו אחד אישי, שאני רוצה להגיד שאנחנו בפרויקט ישראל פועלים כל השנה בשביל להשמיע את קולם במגוון של אוכלוסיות שונות, בעיקר מוחלשות. לצערי בשנתיים האחרונות, או לשמחתי, יוצא לי ללוות בעיקר מהצד המנהלי ולנהל את כל הפעילות שלנו החברתית, וכמעט לא לצלם, אבל לפני כמה חודשים שירינה פנתה אליי, לא עמדתי בפיתוי, ובאמת זכיתי ביום האחרון לפני הסגר, להשתתף כצלם בפרויקט, ולצלם את אליעזר בלאו בן 95, ואת אשתו זהבה בת 93, אליעזר הוא ניצול אושוויץ, וזהבה עברה שלל גטאות, ואני חושב שזה מאוד מתחבר גם לפעילות שלנו, שחובה עלינו כצלמים, להשתמש בשפת הצילום, כדי לזכור, ובעיקר כדי להזכיר, ואין לי מילים להעריך את הפרויקט הזה שג'ים ורינה, כל הצוות הרימו. So, let's switch to English and start our evening. I would love to start the special evening with a short video art. In bulk, can you put us? It's made by Alon Bernstein. The video called 1 Minute of Silence. It's made last year, the Holocaust Day at Machane Yehuda, and it's the opening page at the Lonka Project, and I think it's a very good and interesting start, if we can technically made it.
There is a problem, just a minute.
אפשר לשתות שמפניה?
למה?
יש לנו ממשלה, יש לנו...
טוב, אל תדברי איתי על זה.
לא בדיוק השיחה.
כן, עוד פעם, אנחנו בדיוק עצרנו, ואני ממש מבקש, שימו לב מי שלא על מיוט, כדי שנוכל להתחיל. ג'ים, good evening.
יש עכשיו איזה...
Good evening.
And thank you for joining us in this special evening. Someone is not on mute.
אני מציעה שפשוט תשתיק את כולנו.
Okay. Jim, you need to open now the unmute. Okay?
Yeah.
So thank you very much for joining us on a special evening. And just before we start with the Lonka Project, and I will be very happy if you can tell us a little bit about your amazing and reward career as a photographer for so many years.
Well, my career as a press photographer started in 1975, pretty much in Spain. I had moved from New York to Spain, and I was struggling for a while and then managed to land a job with United Press International, and they moved me up to Belgium, to Brussels, where I spent 3.5 years learning the business, sitting on the desk, but also taking photographs on some major stories. And then I covered the 1982 war in Lebanon. And I went back to my boss and said I wanted to transfer to Israel to cover Israel. So I came here in early 1983 and for UPI, which was bought out a few years later by Reuters. So I started the Reuters picture service here in Israel and the Palestinian territories as chief photographer. I stayed with them covering Israeli events until, for 18 years, until the second Intifada, 2002. And then I joined EPA, European Press Photo Agency, and worked with them up until about 1.5 years ago, when I sort of retired, but then got involved with my wife, Rena, with the Lonka Project. So I've been very busy with that since then.
So can you tell us who is Lonka and how all this project started?
Lonka is a very common Polish name, a nickname, and it's the project is named after Lonka, which is Eleonora, who was Rena's mother. She is a Holocaust survivor who survived 5 different death camps, including Auschwitz, and went on to make a wonderful life for herself here in Israel, in Tel Aviv, with her husband. Her husband is still alive, and she unfortunately passed away almost exactly 2 years ago. So as a tribute to her and to all the Holocaust survivors, we decided, rather Rena decided, to name it after her mother, which I think is very fitting and appropriate.
So it started 1 year ago, yes?
Yes, it started, we came on the idea about December, January 2019, after seeing some news film footage about how anti-Semitism and the total lack of knowledge about the Holocaust was so prevalent, especially in France, and then later, a few months later, in the late winter, the spring of last year, a survey came out in the United States, a very shocking survey that stated something like 40% of Americans do not know what Auschwitz is, which prompted us to start this project. And we were talking it over for a while and just decided, what could we do? We're 2 press photographers. My wife is also a photographer with a New York daily newspaper. So we cover much of the same stories, and we've been photojournalists for the last 40 years. So we thought, what could we do as photographers to show the world and to educate the world in some way what the Holocaust was and how to combat anti-Semitism and ethnic hatred along the way as an educational project. So that's how it started. We put out feelers to friends we have in the photojournalistic world, and we got a very overwhelmingly positive response that they would love to join. It sounds like a great project. So we went ahead with it. We just sort of slipped into it and said, okay, let it go. And more people signed up. more people started taking pictures. It got off to a little slow start. It took a few months for pictures to start coming in. And then last summer was a little slow because it's the summer and people are on the beach and on holiday. But then in the fall, we really started getting a lot of work coming in from very, very distinguished photographers and enthusiastically embraced the project and sent wonderful pictures. You're looking now at a picture from South Africa by the photographer Roger Ballin.
So it's we will fix it the presentation. But
Okay.
It's amazing. In 1 year, you have more than 250 the world leading professional photographers in 30 different countries. It's amazing. They all volunteer to this
Yes.
amazing project.
Yes,
So how did you manage to do that with this so many amazing photographers?
Well, basically through email and phone calls, we just said, look, we're working on this project. Would you want to participate? And almost everybody we called or sent emails to said, yes, I would love to. Of course, a lot of those people had problem finding a survivor. Some of the photographers had never met a survivor or photographed a Holocaust survivor. So for them,
it's a good question that came from the audience now. How did you find the survivor?
Well, through a variety of ways. Many photographers found their own survivors to photograph. They were able to track them down, especially a lot of the photojournalists among us are good at following a story and getting into the depths of a story and finding out who to photograph. But other people had some problems or lived in far off locations. And they said, look, we'd love to participate, but how do we find a photographer, a survivor? So my wife is very good at using Google and other search engines and finding survivors and finding stories for the survivors. And also we had some other help. We had help from a woman in New York named Tova, a man in Paris who helped us with a lot of French survivors. But mainly through just searching and finding out through different sources. There are a lot of organizations that help survivors around the world, and they were somewhat helpful. The Museum of Tolerance in California, in Los Angeles, gave us some assistance. But mainly it was through a lot of personal hard work. And we also wanted to find survivors who had a story to tell and would come forward and tell that story. So each of the photographs of the survivors has a story that goes behind it. We don't think you can just show the photographs as artistic and creative and diverse as they are without also telling the story behind that survivor. So in our exhibition, for example, our inaugural exhibition was in the United Nations. So we had very nice prints done here in Tel Aviv, at different sizes. Some were very big, like 2 meters. It was in a limited space, but we showed the picture and then the story alongside the picture with the credit of the photographer, of course, and where the picture was taken. So you had pictures from South Africa, Australia, London, Tel Aviv, all over, Florida, New York. This picture was taken in New York by a studio photographer, very well-known man named Howard Schatz, great photographer. This is Rena's picture here, which is a composite picture, of course, with the helicopter. So we found just an amazing amount of dedication, enthusiasm, sincerity in both the photographers who did all of this voluntarily, and of course the survivors who also volunteered their time to sit, to come forward, to tell their stories, and to be shown as a way of making a testimony for future generations to see. In several years, there will be so few Holocaust survivors among us still that these pictures will be a testament to their lives, their power to live.
So we actually had a few people who reached out and asked how you reach the survivors, and they said that they have survivors and their families who also want to participate in the project. So they want to know, what they should do, and also, is the project still going on?
Yes, the project is still very much going on. Of course, with the advent of this coronavirus, excuse me, which has basically shut down most of the entire world for the past several months, the Lonka Project has also been put on hold, put on the back burner, but we're going ahead. Actually, today we had someone take a picture when Yom HaShoah began and the siren sounded in Tel Aviv. An Israeli photographer named Oded Wagenstein took a picture of a woman on her balcony with a mask on during the siren. And we'd like to see more pictures. We don't feel it's really our place. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. We don't, my wife and I both don't think it's our place to really push photographers to go out and photograph, do a portrait of a survivor at this time. We don't feel right doing that, but if they do it, that would be fine. I'm sure when things loosen up a bit, and the world comes back to a little sense of normality, and there's a lot more testing done where people can feel safe about going out, that they're not infected, I'm sure things will pick up considerably. We've gotten a lot of messages from people wanting to know if this is still continuing, and it certainly is. We had a very large exhibition planned to open yesterday in Jerusalem in Safra Square. This was sort of under negotiation with the municipality of Jerusalem when I got back to New York at during February, early February. And at that time, we just didn't know. It was a big question. And then, of course, the government closed everything down. So this is put on hold. This was supposed to be a 1-month show outdoors in Safra Square. So I hope at some point we'll get to do that. I think we will. They were very enthusiastic about putting on the show, and we've gotten some very good material to do that. So it would be a very big exhibit when it happens. Let's see.
So people should just reach out to you through your website if they have.
Yeah. Actually, we've gotten quite a few since the website is posted. I think it's getting a lot of clicks, and a lot of people have sent emails that their mother or their father, or they know somebody. So we're in touch with all of them basically to ascertain if if it would be a good story, a good picture, and then we get in touch. It's a process of getting permission from especially the survivor, and then assigning a photographer to do that. We have somebody in Tel Aviv, Haggai Roth, who is helping us with that in a big way. I think he's online now watching. Thank you, Haggai. But yeah, we found probably 10 or 15 survivors just through the internet, through people reaching out to us. So yeah, we're welcome to have more. Yes.
Yeah, great. People are also writing now in the chat that they want to join. So I guess this meeting will probably,
that would be great.
Jim, I want to ask you. I know we talked some months ago when I know that you have a lot of dream about this project, and now with the coronavirus affects everything. But can you tell us a little bit what is your vision? How you see it spread the word, or do you think it should be in a book, or what is the platform that you think it should be exhibited?
Well, several platforms. I think it should be exhibited as photographs in an exhibition space, like it was in the United Nations, like it will be in Safra Square in Jerusalem. We have plans for exhibits next International Holocaust Day on January 27th. to be held in Berlin and also to be held in the Museum of Tolerance in Moscow. So those are two very big shows. We are also negotiating with the Holocaust Museum in New York that they might put on a show in 2021. I think what we'd like to do, because this is a project that is both very artistic, because we managed to get together 250 photographers, professional photographers, to take a picture of basically the same subject. I'm not sure if this has ever been done before, but we've reached out to people to photograph Holocaust survivors, and they've done it. They're all professional photographers. The quality of the work is outstanding. So I see it as much as an art exhibit, as well as a book and an educational tool. So we're dealing with publishers. We have a very strong lead with one publisher who wants to publish the book. But again, in the last 2 months, there's been no communication because of the coronavirus. So everything is really put on hold for the immediate future. I hope not long term. I hope in the next couple months, we can, start progressing with this and actually, there's no place now to print photos. We can't go to a printer and print photos, so there's nothing we can do.
Yeah, I think here there is someone who prints, but we can discuss it later. So we got a few questions before the lecture started. Some you've already answered, but someone asked, what guidelines did you give the photographers before they start shooting?
Good question. Basically, absolutely none. We want this to be a collective endeavor with these 250 or 300, whatever the number gets to. It continues to grow, and we just said, look, it's your photograph. You're a professional photographer. We don't want to give you any guidelines or any ideas. You do what you would like to do, take the picture you want to take, and give us that one picture. We're not looking to photograph every Holocaust survivor that we can. So we're not trying to duplicate, for example, Yad Vashem has testimonials from 6 million people. We're not trying to do that. We're trying to take motivate very talented professional photographers to approach a subject and maybe for the first time, get to know that subject, get a rapport, build up a sense of empathy, and then to take a portrait of that person, however he or she wants to do it. So there's been very little input on our side, hardly any, I would say, that we said, oh, we'll make this picture like this. It's totally up to the photographers. We don't want to get in their creative way.
Right. And then someone asked if you think that staged initiated photography can evoke emotions.
Oh, well, absolutely. The picture you just saw of the couple holding hands, the man just passed away a few days ago, which we posted on our website. By and large, just when you talk of a photographic portrait, it is almost 100% of the time a staged picture where the photographer is interacting with the subject and says, sit here, stand there, hold this, let me bring in a lamp or sit on this couch. They're making all the decisions how the photograph should look in their style. That's why we don't want to give them ideas of what to do. They can have their own ideas, and they do. They all have ideas. So we have some studio portraits that are just taken with very nice light, beautiful light. And we have other more journalistic portraits that are taken in real life while something is happening, and are not so staged. But by and large, I would say when you talk of the term a portrait photograph. It is almost always a staged photograph. It is a setup photograph that is done specifically for that portrait by that artist.
Yeah. And someone asked if you thought about what you're going to do after the last survivor has passed away.
Wow. I hope that's not for at least another 20 years. Ad mea esrim, as they say. But
Yeah.
I think
Or even, you know, questions like if you have, what you have in mind for the future of the project.
Well, we want the project to continue. We find that photographers want to continue with this. We've reached out to a lot of people, and not all of them have done their portraits yet. So we have a whole list of people who want to do it, but have not done it yet. So I imagine that the number of survivors is dwindling every year considerably, because they're rather, you know, elder amongst us. So I don't know, eventually we will reach that point. I hope the project is still continuing in 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, even 10 years, if there's still survivors alive. I hope so. We'll photograph what we can. Again, we're not trying to photograph every survivor. We want to hook up a survivor with a good professional photographer to make a strong emotional portrait. So whatever we get to, and the world announces there are no more Holocaust survivors, I think then we will really have a phenomenal record and document of these people's amazing lives. I had wanted to do such a project 30 years ago when I first came to Israel. I was amazed. I was living in Tel Aviv, and I was amazed to see people in you know, cafes with numbers on their arms. I had never seen this before. And I was 35 years old, a professional photographer, and I said, wow, there's so many people who are Holocaust survivors. There should be a project done on this. But being a news photographer, I didn't have the chance, the opportunity, or the time to develop, you know, to devote to that. So, you know, it slipped by. I thought of it every once in a while. 30 years went by. I sort of retired from news photography, and we came up with this idea, and I said, yes, let's do it. It's a great idea. We have to do it. So we did.
Yeah, it's really, now we want to, and the presentation stopped because we want to put on another presentations of the works of some photographers who are here with us. We want to hear from them a little. So while we're putting on, so we're going to say again that the photographers that are here to speak are Hadass Baruch, Kobe Wolf, and Nati Shochat. So Hadass, are you here? I saw you before.
This is Hadass's marvelous portrait.
Right. So if
הדס פה?
ראיתי אותה קודם.
Hadass, you have to
unmute.
כן, so let's move on and then we can go back. ענבל, את יכולה להעביר אחד.
Where's Hadass? Hadass.
Yes, sorry.
There you are.
Yeah.
Hadass has the baby, so she might be busy.
I'm multitasking. I saw you paused on my picture, so I came back.
Thank you, Hadass, to join us with the baby.
I hope she allows me. It's not going to last very long. No, sorry.
Okay, so we can move on and then tell us when you're ready.
Okay, yeah. Keep me for now. Thank you.
Okay, so ענבל, את יכולה להעביר תמונה? אוקיי, מעולה. נתי פה?
פה, כן, אני נמצא.
מעולה. אוקיי, מעולה. אז אתה יכול לספר לנו קצת על החוויה שלך, על הצילום עצמו?
החוויה שלי הייתה מאוד מאוד מעניינת. אני צילמתי, הייתי נוכח בבית של דוב לנדאו עם רינה.
We switched to Hebrew for some reason. Do you feel comfortable to speak in English? Sorry.
אני מעדיף לדבר בעברית.
אוקיי, בסדר.
אז כפי שאמרתי, אני צילמתי את דוב לנדאו, הוא בן 92, ניצול שואה עם סיפור מאוד מאוד קשה, שרד את אושוויץ, בוכנוולד, צעדת מוות. לאחר מכן החליט שהוא עולה בעלייה בלתי חוקית לארץ, והגלו אותו באקסודוס. הוא סיפור מאוד מאוד מעניין. אחרי כל התלאות שהוא עבר בשואה, הוא גם נפל בשבי ונאלץ לחיות כשבוי מלחמה קטנה, ואיכשהו נשאר לו החיוך השובב שלו, שזה הדהים אותי. איך האדם שעובר כל כך הרבה תלאות, שורד בצורה כזו וממשיך לחיות בעצם. זה מדהים. הפרויקט הזה הוא פרויקט שאני חושב שכל צלם חייב להשתתף בו. זה פרויקט מטורף מהעיניים שלי. אני חושב שהתרומה שלנו היא מאוד קטנה עכשיו, אבל היא לדורות הבאים בעצם, כי אין תיעוד אמיתי כזה מקצועי כמו שהפרויקט הזה מציג בעצם. מאוד נהניתי לצלם את זה, ולא אכפת לי לצלם עוד אפילו. היה כיף.
הם צריכים להקליט אותך. אתה יכול להגיד, לספר במילה קצת על עצמך? מי שלא מכיר?
אני הבעלים של הסוכנות צילום הירושלמית שנקראת פלאש 90. אנחנו עובדים למעלה מ100 גופי תקשורת שונים היום. אני צלם 30 שנה, אבא ל3 בנות. הבת הקטנה שלי התגייסה אתמול. מאוד סימבולי שהבת שלי מתגייסת לצבא ככה ערב יום השואה. אני חושב אין על מה שיש לנו פה בעצם, בישראל. כל הקיבוץ גלויות הזה של כל העם שלנו, לא יודע, אני חושב שמדהים לנו. והיום דווקא יונתן צילם ניצול שואה, יושב בספירה של יום הזיכרון עם מסכה על הפנים, וזו תמונה שחייבים לצרף לפרויקט הזה. תמונה מצמררת, חבל שלא שלחתי אותה באמת. זהו, זה אני.
אוקיי, תודה, ותכף בטח גם נשאלו אותך עוד שאלות וזה, אז תישאר איתנו אם תוכל. קובי נעלם לי מהווידאו.
כן, כן. שרפתי את הסיר של האוכל, אתה חייב לרוץ לראות מה קורה שם. שכחתי את האוכל על האש פשוט. טוב.
קובי,
כן.
קובי, can you do it in English?
אני יכול לדבר באנגלית, אני מעדיף עברית, אבל אם זה לחוץ באנגלית, אין לי בעיה, זה לא...
מה שנוח.
פשוט, כן. אוקיי, לתמונה הזו ספציפית. אני קיבלתי את הפרטים של אברהם מרינה ששלחה לי. לא הכרתי אותו לפני זה כמובן, שהגעתי לצלם אותו, הייתה לנו שיחה די מעניינת, הוא לא בדיוק, הוא חי בתקופה של השואה והיה חייל בצבא הרוסי, אבל הוא לא באמת היה במחנות. אבל כל הרקע של האיש הזה סביב המלחמה, המעורבות שלו, כאילו גם בני משפחה שהיו במחנות ונספו בשואה. הוא בעצם נלחם בצבא הרוסי נגד הגרמנים עד שהוא עלה לארץ בתחילת שנות ה-50, פחות או יותר. כשאני הגעתי לצלם אותו, אז אני ישר נוהג לשוחח תמיד עם המצולמים שלי. מאוד חשוב לי לדעת מול מי אני עומד, כמובן שנוצרה שיחה מאוד מאוד מעניינת, ואז ביקשתי ממנו להוציא את המדים ולהתלבש, ואני אשמח לצלם אותו עם המדים בצילום די מבוים, שזה פחות הסגנון האישי שלי, אני מאוד בפוטוג'ורנליסטי בסגנון הצילומי שלי, ואני לרוב לא מביים את התמונות שלי, ומבקש מאנשים לעמוד מולי, אבל דווקא הייתה התנסות מעניינת. העמדתי פלאש וצילמתי אותו בצורה הזאת, כמובן שהיה צריך קצת לסדר את החדר בצורה מסוימת, ויצא מה שיצא. התמונה השנייה, אני לא יודע אם יש פה עוד תמונה נוספת, שהוא עומד ושהוא יושב, החולצה בעצם, ממש תמונה שמזכירה את התמונה הקודמת של נתי, שזה גם כן תמיד הצילומים שאני מצלם, בדרך כלל זה נעשה תוך כדי שיחה, תוך כדי התנהלות שלי מול המצולם. אני משתדל מאוד להיות מעורב, וגם כן פחות להיות מורגש בצילום. הצילום הזה זה צילום שאני אישית מאוד אוהב, אבל הוא פחות הסגנון האישי שלי, שזה דווקא היה לי די מרתק לצלם את זה בצורה הזאת. עוד שאלות?
יש לנו שאלות גם, אנחנו מנסים במקביל לצופן כמה דברים. יש לנו שאלות שהגיעו, כמה שאלות לצלמים שהגיעו מהקהל, אז אני אשאל ופשוט נתי או קובי או הדס אם תצטרף.
או צלמים אחרים שנמצאים פה.
ברדי, נשמח.
יש פה את נדב.
זהו, אתם יודעים מי יש, אז נשמח לשמוע, קודם כל אם יש מישהו נוסף שרוצה באופן כללי לספר על החוויה שלו, מישהו מבין הצלמים שומע ורוצה להגיד משהו, יכול לכתוב לנו בצ'אט, ואז...
נדב.
נדב, מעולה. היי.
אהלן. אני צילמתי You want me to do that?
Yeah, please do it in English. Thank you.
So, my name is Nadav Noyaz. I'm a photojournalist covering different situations, conflicts, disaster area, Israel. Of course, I born in Israel. I've been approached by Jim and Rina to shoot a portrait of Helga. She's living in New Jersey. And I met her, I sat with her for a few hours. She told me all her story. She was basically, her mom one day heard that they're going to do a selection in the camp, and she just threw her behind the fence and tell her, go into the forest, and don't worry, someone will find you. And during the time before, she was training her what she can eat in the forest. She was 8 years old. And next to her place, from all the story, what I wanted to do is to take a picture of her in the forest. And she's in her late 80s, I think. And I didn't find any forest next to her, but it was some bushes next to her place, and I just create from that the kind of a forest. And I went to shoot one time, and I told her to be a little bit, to try to feel what she feel in the moment that the group of partisans found her. And when I came back home, she was looking sad and depressed. But from all the conversation that I had with her during all the day, she's like a super strong woman and kind of a hero, you know? She raised 3 kids, she had a family, she got married, she got her life together after this disaster or like horrible time that she passed in the Holocaust. And I said, I don't feel very, very comfortable to put her in that kind of a portrait. I would love to show her as a strong woman as she is, and not as someone that is living in fear. So I went to shoot again. And this is a picture, I don't know if you can show it, but this is a picture that you have over there, that she's like more like her strong personality coming out. And that was the one portrait that I did. And then I did another portrait. I talked with Rina, because I grew up in Beersheba. And I had a neighbor, name is Gera. And basically, we all knew that he is a Holocaust survivor, but we never knew what passed on him. He never talked about it. And for many, many years, because I'm also a journalist, I wanted to interview him and to get his story out, even for myself and the family, because basically he was like the best friend of my parents. He was living like few houses next to us, but we never knew his story. And I contacted with Rina, and I asked her, can I shoot another portrait? And she told me that usually every photographer have one portrait, but family is family, because he is like my second dad, basically. And I talked to him. I went to Israel. I was in Israel, and I went to talk with him. I didn't know if he will agree even to be part of that project. And I came in the afternoon, and I sit with him, and during the conversation, I told him, Gera, you know I'm part of the Lonka Project. I told him about the project. Do you mind that I will come to take a portrait? And he's like, sure. And I was surprised that he even agreed to that. And then I said, I will push it as a journalist. We always try to push a little bit. And I asked him, you know, usually with these portraits comes a little interview. Do you mind if I will come with the camera and we will sit for a little bit and we will have a talk, like we talk now? And he said, like, why not? So I sit with him for 3 hours. Before I did this interview, I talked with his kids that I know them, and I asked them to get some background, and they basically don't know nothing about what he passed. They know a few anecdotes, but they don't know the story. And I sit with him for 3-4 hours, and usually in an interview as a journalist, you have to lead your subject and to give him questions, and basically it was feeling like the guy was like waiting that someone will ask him. And for 4 hours he didn't stop talking, and it was like a chronologic, you know, like everything with dates, with years, with everything that he passed. And he was a kid in that time. He passed all the Holocaust by himself with his cousins that he carried on his back, basically. His mom pushed him out of a train. She bribes the guards when the train stopped on the way to Auschwitz. And she kissed him and she told him, be a good boy, don't tell no one that you are Jewish, but just remember that. Remember that. Go back to Warsaw. And basically, this moment on the train station, that was the last moment that he saw his mom. He never saw her again. So I choose to take pictures of him. I took him outside of the city of Beersheba to the desert that he totally contrast to where he grew up in Warsaw. And it was sunset, and the sun just touched the railway, the train rail. And I just knew that I have to do this picture over there. So I took him over there, and it was super emotional for me to take this picture, because basically I grew up with him and he never talked. And when I told his kids that he was talking with him, that I talk with him and I sit 3-4 hours with him, he was shocked. And when I let them hear the stories, they were in tears, basically. They'd never heard the story, all the chronology of what he passed over there and how he survived on a chocolate bar for a month that they found in a supermarket that was bombed by the Russians. So that's my story, and I got really attached.
תודה רבה. אנחנו חייבים רגע להתקדם. תודה על הסיפור. Thank you for the story. We have some interesting question, and then we move on. One of the questions is for Kobe. They ask about the light, if there is any flash or it was a nature light.
I told you before that I use flash. The room was quite dark. So I use the flash, I use the umbrella, Only one umbrella from the left, that's it.
That's enough.
That's it, yeah.
Hagai, I must tell you, Hagai is the amazing producer of the project that I have the honor to work with him too. And I hope you see all the chat because you have so many work to do after. And so many people want to join, photographers and Holocaust survivor. And one of the questions, Tamar, I saw her before, and Tamar is going to, by the way, Tamar is going to have the evening with us today. Tomorrow, we'll be very happy if you join us. And she asked if it was an open call, Jim, for the photographers, or you just get in touch with the one you want.
It wasn't so much an open call. When we started, we didn't know what the response might be and how people would take this and if we could even do it. So Rena and I both come from a photojournalistic background. Being in Israel, a lot of photographers come into Israel to cover the story here that is, continuing. So there's a lot of visiting photojournalists, and we've gotten to know them and become friends with many of them over the decades. So what we did first was just to reach out to basically a handful or a couple dozen people all over the world and say, would you like to take part in this? And we got a very positive response to that. So then we also got in touch with our Israeli colleagues. I would say of the pictures we have in hand, I would say about half of them are done by Israeli photographers. And of course,
some of the names, because I don't know if the people have the time to look, but there is amazing name like Alex Sot and Roger Balan, Jim Perez, and amazing, really the celeb documentary photographer in our time.
Yes, we've been able to get, well, everybody hears the subject and says, wow, what a great idea. I want to be part of this. And then they have to produce a picture, and either that's the easy part or that's the hard part. It depends. I think almost to a person who's gone out and made a photograph, like Nadav so eloquently spoke about, this was a family member. We've had many, many cases, people coming back to us saying that this was just such an extraordinary experience to do this. There's a man in Washington, D.C., who I believe is online, Max Hirschfeld, or New York City. Max, I'm not sure where you're living.
Can you hear me?
There you are.
Can you hear me?
I can, yes.
Okay, yeah, I live in Washington.
Okay.
And appreciate that.
You took a picture of an architect, a wonderful portrait up in New York City. You traveled up to New York City to do a portrait session. And why don't you tell us a little about that?
I did. Thanks, Jim. And I was alerted to the project through a friend, Andy Anderson, who had also just photographed a really stunning portrait of Ben Ferenc down in Florida. And when Andy mentioned it to me, I believe I reached out to you, and I was, I know a few survivors, a couple of survivors here in Washington, but it's been a long time since I spoke with them. And as you mentioned, both my parents were Auschwitz survivors, but they're both passed quite a long time ago. So my wife had remembered recently reading about Stephen Jacobs, who's the architect in New York that I photographed. And his story is really fascinating because he was taken to Buchenwald when he was 5 years old. And ironically, he survived primarily because his father taught him how to look taller and wear a cap low down on his face. And so Stephen Jacobs was a very powerful collaborator with me. And my background is both a long time as a studio photographer, but an equal amount as a location photographer. So with Stephen, I chose to minimize the process and do him with a more of a studio style portrait in his office on Park Avenue. Really remarkable man. It's worth looking up his story. He also was asked, and he spends time in Israel every year, and he was tapped to be the designer for Memorial at Buchenwald. So he has a particularly strong connection to this. And I was hoping, Jim, that he would have come to the opening at the UN, which, by the way, was particularly beautiful and quite moving. But I believe he was out of town. So I hope you'll have a chance again to display the work in New York.
I hope so. Yeah, it would be nice. We're working on it.
Oh, good. Well, whatever we can do from this end, and you know, I know that this is a exponentially grown project that probably with leaps and bounds from your original concept, and it sounds like it's far from complete.
But just let me ask you, Max, how was it emotionally to get to meet him and to take his picture? How did that setting, that photo session go?
Well, I'll be frank with you, and because as you mentioned, you know, I've worked on a book about my parents for over 20 years. So the emotional content of being with survivors is something that I thought I had under control. But I must admit that meeting Steve and realizing that he and I are relatively close in age. He's actually 79, I'm 68, so we're not that far apart. It was a difficult thing to put into words, and I think that's why so many of us love having cameras to hide behind, so that our collaboration, he was very soft-spoken, extremely serious man. I'm not certain how much he's comfortable with discussing his time at Buchenwald, but it did show up in Newsweek, which is how my wife found the article about him. And he's, I think that there's people that have limitations on how much, as survivors, how much they want to be in the public eye, but I believe that he did not hesitate for this for a second. He was also, I believe, quite taken with my book, which I'll just hold up here and hope you all have a chance. Jim has a copy. It's a book called Sweet Noise, Love in Wartime, and it features my parents' story about...
Actually, you can write maybe in the chat so we know about it.
Yeah, I will do that. Let's see.
So, and thank you very much. And just we are the last minute before we are finished. And so we have a lot of other amazing photographer. And if someone else wants to say very, very shortly, Oded, I see you, and ורדי, אם אתם רוצים להוסיף משהו קצר, זה נחמד. If you want to...
כן, אני יכול להגיד, שומעים אותי?
כן, ממש בקצרה.
No problem, I will do it in a few seconds. I just joined the Hi Jim, I just joined the project. Hey, how are you? Very recently, and Rina just called me yesterday and said there is an opportunity to photograph a nice lady, a Holocaust survivor with a siren in the time of the tzvira. And we met her today, and it was such an emotional moment. And I want to say that, as Jim said, the magnitude of the project is amazing. So many photographers from all over the world. But the thing is with that project is the process. That lady told us today that she haven't left the house for 5 weeks. And we interact, we even made a few jokes together. And that is the important thing, the process that it allowed me, a 34 years old person, to meet her and to speak with her, and the time with Rina and her was amazing today. So that is what I want to add, that this is an amazing art project, but the process is even more important to let us just to know each other and to make this multi-generation conversation. And it was an amazing experience this morning. So thank you for that. That's it.
Thank you, Oded. This is a picture of, well, where did it go? Here. Here's a picture of Oded working this morning. As the siren was just about to sound, and Rina, my wife, took this picture. She set it up very quickly, and that's how things happen. You know, it's
I don't know if you can see, we are all with masks and taking good care of each other. It was quite interesting.
Exactly. Which
be creative.
Which shows that pictures can be taken during this this terrible, tough time of the coronavirus. You don't have to go into somebody's house and take a good picture. You can do it outside or through the window. So again, I don't want to.
Thank you.
Thank you. I look forward to getting your picture too.
Thank you.
Jim, last sentence is your stage or your screen, or I don't know what to say in the Zoom tag, but
well, I would just.
Where are we going from now? We are with you, but
I would just like to, take the opportunity to thank all the photographers and the survivors who participated in this project, who opened their homes to us and their hearts, and even from their balconies or through their windows, and shared their stories with us. It's not taken for granted or taken lightly. We really do appreciate it. We appreciate the work of the photographers who've gone out and dedicated their time and energy to do this. I think we all have lasting memories of this, and I hope they're good memories and strong memories. And the project will continue. We will keep going forward. And I hope when these hard times lift, first of all, we'll be able to have an exhibit in Jerusalem. That would be wonderful. And then it will go on from there. We'll keep people informed through our website, which I try and add to as often as possible. So check in there, come back, and thank you everybody for participating, and everybody today on this Zoom chat. It's very nice. Good way to get thoughts across and images across during these difficult times. So may they lift soon and stay healthy. Stay well.
Thank you very much, Jim. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank all the team, Maya and Bal and Mir, Adar, for this meeting. And we have the record evening. If someone will need, we can send you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Very interesting.
Bye.
Thank you.
Project.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye. Take care.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Photo Israel.
Thank you.